So I first want to introduce our first keynote speaker, Kevin Mahoney. Kevin is the Chief Executive Officer for the University of Pennsylvania Health System. He assumed this role in July of 2019. And since joining Penn Medicine in 1996, Mr. Mahoney has led several transformative construction projects which have expanded and enhanced Penn Medicine's clinical care, teaching, and research missions, including the Smilo Center for Translational Research and the Henry A. Jordan Medical Education Center. He oversaw the implementation of a common electronic health record platform, the only comprehensive system of its kind in the Philadelphia region. Mr. Mahoney also directed the development and construction of Penn Medicine's new $1.6 billion hospital called the Pavilion, which houses inpatient care for the Abramson Center, Cancer Center, heart and vascular medicine and surgery, neurology and neurosurgery, and a new emergency department on the Hospital of the University of Pennsylvania campus. This is the largest capital project in Penn's history, and the Pavilion opened in the fall of 2021. He is a graduate of Millersville State College, where he earned a bachelor's degree in economics, and he holds an MBA and a doctorate from the Fox School of Business at Temple University. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening to me. I have a watch and my phone going to make sure that I stick to my 15 minutes. I am going to try to highlight and set up the day, so I'm not going to go too deep. I'm going to go through things pretty quickly. I'm using Penn as an example because I know it best, but I want you to know that I also, Philadelphia's got it going on. We got it going on because CHOP's advancing life sciences, Temple, Jefferson, Wistar, the Science Center, Drexel, the Chamber. We are pushing forward, and I'm speaking again, I use Penn examples, but I hope you know that this is representative of Philadelphia. The next thing is I always bring way too many slides. So this isn't a slideshow, this is more of a movie. We're walking on the shoulders of giants. The nation's first hospital was founded in Philadelphia, right down at 8th and Spruce. But importantly, from the very beginning, we have been creating innovations that have changed the world. One of my favorite is the one in the middle. If you go to Wikipedia and you look up scuba diving, they will say it was invented by Jacques Cousteau. The truth is it was invented by a pulmonologist at the University of Pennsylvania because the Army wanted to put mines on ships during World War II. So they came to Penn, and Dr. Christensen, or Lambertson, put that together. An important part of our history at Fox Chase and Penn is the founding of the Philadelphia chromosome by Dr. Peter Knoll, who was the chair of our pathology department. That chromosome and the fact that we learned that cancer was a genetic disease is what has spawned so many of these spin-out companies that we're going to talk about today. Dr. Austrian invented the Pneumovax vaccine when he won his Lasker Award. I put this up here because it is so incredibly important to me. Every scientist that I run into at a Philadelphia institution is unconvinced by prevailing medical science. Dr. Austrian grew up in a time when they invented antibiotics, and there was a paper that was written, The End of Infectious Diseases. Well, for any of us who've had COVID in the room, we know that was probably an overstatement back in the 40s. What Dr. Austrian said is, I'm not going to treat infectious disease, I'm going to prevent it. And the Pneumovax vaccine has saved hundreds of lives, but so has the work of Dr. Plotkin and Paul Offit at Children's Hospital. The work that people have done at the Wistar Institute to develop vaccines. We're going to keep moving forward. We're very proud of the fact that the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are based on technology built in Philadelphia from the University of Pennsylvania. Dr. Weissman has taken his royalties and piling them back into, as is the university, the creation of the Penn Institute for RNA Innovation. Dr. Weissman, again, working on messenger RNA, ran into Katie Karaoke back in 1998 at a copying machine. just by happenstance. What are you working on? I'm working on messenger RNA. I thought I was the only person in the world working on messenger RNA. Here's somebody right beside me. And together, they made it possible for people to hug their grandchildren again. Science is hard. Everyone gets so excited. We're doing a Series A, a Series B, a Series C. What I think makes Philadelphia unique is that our scientists know that it's hard, but they never lose hope. And what we need to do is to continue to produce the resources, whether they be government or private philanthropy, so that they can continue to do their work. And we're going to talk about that throughout the day today. So I just want to touch briefly on the Penn Medicine ecosystem. Again, I'm speaking with a Penn example, but I only bring it up. This works pretty well. So we get grants, we get external funding, it creates innovation at Penn. That leads to clinical differentiation. It attracts more patients to Philadelphia than would normally come. That produces more internal funding. When this cycle is humming, things are going really well because we get more external funding and then we get royalties. We differentiate our clinical side, which allows us to go to Blue Cross and Aetna and United Healthcare, saying we need higher rates because we're treating the sick of the sick across the Mid-Atlantic and across the globe. Why this is important to me is 60% of the clinical margin from the University of Pennsylvania goes into research. A lot goes into education. I try to tell the housekeepers, the nurses, the lab techs, you're not a housekeeper, a revenue cycle person, a lab tech, you're a cancer researcher. Because if you do your job as well as you can, 60% of what's going to be generated is going into research. That allows people like Carl June to arrive in 1996 with a crazy idea of, I can re-engineer T cells to kill cancer. Now everyone says, the day we saw Carl, we thought he was a rock star. The truth is, most of us said, that guy's nuts. He didn't have grants. Barbara Netter, the Abramson family, and the health system margin is what allowed him to get started. And then once he started to produce that idea, then the grants started to come in, and then the science moved forward. So I'm proud that we're not just a health system, but we're a research engine. We have a tradition of innovation that led us to coin the phrase Silicon Valley, cell and gene therapy plus connected health. It is important to me that we continue to attract talent to Philadelphia. Because talent is when, I mentioned Drew Weissman, is sitting next to Carl June and next to Dr. John Epstein, cardiologist, immunologist, vaccine. They're now using messenger RNA, CAR T, to treat cardiac fibrosis. No one sat out in their career and said, I'm going to do that. It was only because they're sitting together in the Smilo building, and that serendipity of science continues to occur, and that's what I think Silicon Valley is about. We continue to develop quickly. We're running out of land in University City. We continue to expand. One of the things that Penn is, and then the connected health part, I apologize. We often talk about curing cancer. As a health system, though, we have an important role, which is to treat everybody. It is a stain on American medicine that if you're white and a female, your chances of making it through childbirth, very high. The chances of you getting sick during childbirth, very low. If you're a person of color and you're in childbirth, you're across the United States, your chances of a comorbidity or even mortality, sadly, is incredibly 10, 12, 15%. Our doctors are working on eliminating that. They came up with a Heart Safe Motherhood, which is a texting platform for getting blood pressure after discharge. Didn't cost much to develop. It has eliminated readmission for high blood pressure. It has virtually eliminated comorbidities. We're going to continue to push this forward. We're making it available as an open source platform. We want everyone to have it. So Penn, CHOP, everybody, we're working on the high-end stuff. We're also, health equity is critically important to us, and connected health does a lot to break down those access obstacles that so many of our colleagues and neighbors in West Philadelphia and South Philadelphia and Northeast Philadelphia and all around Kennett Square, where poverty is still an issue, and connected health will help us solve that, and we'll continue to push forward on that. We set up, I forgot the header on this slide, apologies. We set up a $50 million co-investment fund, and you'll see on the left-hand side, we still have about 20 million of money available after 3 years. We continue to invest. It has done a lot for scientists to be able to go out to the VC, out to pharmaceutical companies and say, my institution believes in me. They believe in my science. In fact, they're putting their own money at risk to go forward. It also, again, back to my virtuous cycle, has created great returns for us. So one company, Community, we put $5 million in. The next day, we got a $30 million corporate-sponsored research agreement back to the University of Pennsylvania. So out of that 30 million or so that we've invested so far, 215 million has already come back in research in the city of Philadelphia. And we want to continue to do that. We're proud of over $1 billion of VC money has come into Philadelphia to match our $30 million investment. So I think it is a program that has served its purpose well. We're going to continue to roll it out. These are all companies that have spun out of our co-investment fund. I saw my friend Mr. D'Antonio from Hunter Roberts, and I saw John Donnelly from Structure Tone. You guys keep putting up the buildings, we'll keep producing the companies to fill those buildings. And the more talent that comes into Philadelphia, the more buildings we're gonna have to put up, because the more science is gonna happen in that serendipitous way that I discussed. These span cell and gene therapy. Some are using adjunctive, I don't think that's actually the right term, adoptive cell therapy like Carl June invented. Others are putting CRISPR technology with cell therapy. Others in the lower right-hand corner are using nerve stretchers, so they will be able to replace nerves within your body. They're pretty good at growing them in the Petri dish. Getting them to grow long and skinny being quite difficult, but Interface down in the lower right-hand corner is working on that. So it spans the spectrum of cancer, neurosciences, OBGYN, and everywhere in between. I'd mentioned health equity, and this also remains critically important to us at Penn, and I know with my other colleagues in the city of Philadelphia, is that 20 blocks should mean 20 years difference in your life. If you live in Strawberry Mansion, you're 20 blocks north of Jefferson, your life expectancy is about 20 years less. If you live at 54th and Cedar, about 20 blocks west of Rittenhouse Square, your life expectancy is actually more than 20 years less. So we are putting our idea, I talked about the life science co-investment, we've also started a co-investment fund for social determinants of health, companies that are going to work not on just a great return, but social impact. The students at Wharton go through and vet the companies, and so far we have funded, I think 5 or 6 of those. Josh Harris, the owner of the 76ers, contributed to the fund, so we're trying to continue to grow this, again, working on both health equity and advanced science at the same time. So we want to write a better story. We don't want people just to show up at Penn, get the latest treatment, and then go home. We want generations to get better. So we're working on things like the Bazar Center. You'll see a large announcement shortly about additional funding. Working on the BRCA 1 and 2, the BRCA genes. We want people to have hope in the future. We tell people you're a patient today, but you're also a pioneer for the future. So in our new pavilion that Joanne mentioned, if you're up in the epilepsy monitoring unit, we're monitoring your care today. We're also gathering all that data, send it over to the engineering school, where the data scientists are going through it to see if they could pick up an early signal in the treatment of epilepsy. So we will continue to write a better story at Penn. We're proud of our 12 FDA approvals in the last 4 years. I think most pharmaceutical companies would die for that track record, but it is the power of having talent co-located within Philadelphia, across the street from CHOP, working with Jefferson, working with the Science Center to move things forward that allows this to happen. I promised Eric from Spark and Steve Grupp, who's going to close us out today, not to steal their thunder, but listen to them, because their stories are so compelling when they get into the patient levels behind those 12 FDA approvals. Philadelphia is truly the centerpiece. We have more construction underway, but it is following decades and decades and decades of the Ben Franklin Partners, of the Commonwealth, of philanthropy, of that health system margin I talked about. That investment that we were making in the early 90s is coming to fruition. And we need to continue to ride that wave. A while back, I sat with the Chamber, I sat with John Fry, my friend from Drexel, Craig Carnaroli from the university, and we talked about making Philadelphia an innovation hub. And I'm not sure who said it, but they said, we need to be like Kendall Square. And half of us said, why do we want to be like Kendall Square? Why would you want to be the second Kendall Square? We should do what we do, which is unique. And what's unique in Philly is the life sciences, but particularly cell and gene therapy and connected health. And we're going to continue to move that forward. These are just a couple examples. Schuylkill Yards, if you came in by the train today, you would have seen the buildings going up there. Down the lower left-hand corner, the Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation has taken old oil refinery space and making life science hubs. And then Pennovation across the river at the Schuylkill from the Penn campus, we have a very large project underway as well. I tell everybody, I'm AAA rated, everything's good, I could ride out my career. That concludes my remarks. No, I could ride out my career. But what I try to tell all 40,000 people working at Penn, what I try to tell my children, what I try to tell everybody, and I hope you in the room, you want to be safe, leave your boat docked in the marina. The beer is closer, the food's closer, and you're completely safe. But that's not what ships are made for. Ships are made for being out in the open seas with the wind in your face, waves crashing over, looking for excitement. And that's where I think Penn and Philadelphia is at. We need to stay on that ship, not in our dock, don't rest on our laurels, but keep pushing forward into the horizon and keep changing the world, which is what we're committed to do. Thanks for listening.